Hey, what's up, guys? I get asked questions pretty often about physical fitness and what my opinions and thoughts are with regard to certain strategies and workout routines. So, one of the most commonly asked questions is whether or not I believe that heavy weights are required in order to develop a well built physique. In my own personal experience, I have dabbled with all different kinds of different routines, different attempts to maximize my actual muscle growth and the results of each workout effort. Part of that, especially in the beginning of the whole process, was my adhering to commonly accepted knowledge, such as, higher, heavier weights are typically required in order to grow mass. So that's pretty much accepted across the board from most. It's the general consensus. I happen to disagree with it at this stage in my life. Again, I can only say at this stage in my life because I have now experimented thoroughly enough and adjusted enough variables throughout that experimentation to conclude that for myself it is not necessary. Meaning, I can develop a well built physique, I can present pretty close to the way I want to present physically without having to lift heavy weights. So I do believe that there is a place for it, especially earlier on when you first start. You're building up your physique. You want to have a very good and solid foundation. So I do believe that heavier weights, the basic compound movements do play a role in that development. However, if I were to go so far as to say which one would I choose if given the choice of only being able to do one, either heavier weight exercises or lighter high reps, I would say that the high reps is what will be my choice 100% of the time. Reason being is because, again, in my opinion, I can still garner excellent results with the high reps, but I offset and remove most all risk of actual injury. Whereas with the heavier set, I may progress a little bit faster than with the higher reps, but again, I'm now exposed to a lot of risk of injury. So that's my main issue with the heavy stuff. In addition to that, I lifted heavy and I realized pretty quickly on that I was stronger than I looked, meaning I was able to lift a lot heavier than most people, but it didn't reflect in my physique. So for me, again, my goal was never to be a competitive power lifter or to be able to be the strongest physically. So I reached a conclusion where, what's really the point of exposing myself to that kind of risk and pushing those kind of weights when I don't look like I lift that kind of weight. My whole purpose is to sculpt myself into a way that I want to look. So it has nothing to do with how much I lift. And with that in mind, it didn't make sense for me to lift that kind of weight. I benched 500 pounds, but I didn't look anything like I could bench 500 pounds. So what was the point? If I could work with 250 pounds as the actual work weight and look the same, why wouldn't I do that rather than expose myself to that risk? And the only answer, in my opinion, again, is ego. Ego, or being so stuck in that mindset that you're just not open enough mentally for changing your routine and deviating from what you may have done for a long time or what you may have always heard is the truth. So again, guys, I would encourage you to experiment for yourselves, keeping in mind that each person is unique, each person's body and its ability to adapt to exposure to exercise is unique, and how each person's body would take in nutrition, food, supplements, etc., is also unique. So, with that being said, I believe that everybody should try on their own. Try heavy weights. If you can get away with the heavy weights and maintain good form and not feel like you're, at risk of tearing something and hurting yourself seriously, then go with it, especially in the younger ages. Like for me, I would say the younger ages are ages 15 to like 25, 26, go for it, because typically during that time, you're at your best with regard to not injuring yourself, and also with regard to recovering much faster should you actually injure yourself. So if you want to do it, try to do it within that time frame. So typically after that age, I advise that you start adjusting more so for avoidance of injury. And that's what I do. So I do have some injuries. I work around all the time. For me, with regard to the weight, I've gone all the way to the other extreme in that I don't even really need to lift weights. Most of what I do is body weight. Most of it. And I could just focus all my attention onto the actual movement and emphasis of the actual targeted muscle. And I'm able to get enough results where it works for me. And I continue in that way. I do change up my workout routines regularly, but these days, I typically don't go heavy. Just a couple months ago, just out of curiosity, because I hadn't lifted heavy in such a long time, I did so with bench. I started out with 225 and worked my way up, and within 4 weeks, I was at like 450 already. So I can still lift those weights, but as soon as I got to that kind of weight, I felt myself like about to tear. I felt my shit about to tear, and I felt like there's no point for me to do this. So I stopped immediately and reverted back to my kind of workout that works well for my body. So give this some thought, guys, and hopefully, you guys can avoid injury and continue to get good results and be open-minded with regard to things like this. Don't limit yourself and confine yourself to what you've been told or what you've read or what has worked for others. You're unique in yourself, and so should your training be. Thanks.